Hi, Sam here for licklibrary.com, and in this video I want to go into the question of why we might get nervous performing on guitar. So I'm not sure why you started playing guitar, but I can guarantee at some point you've been asked to play in front of some people, or you have the desire to actually perform in front of people, whether that's in a cover band, an originals band, if it's making videos on YouTube and Instagram, posting clips like that. It's all a type of performance. Performing can really shock us for the first time we do it, if we're performing for the first time in front of an audience on an instrument. I remember my first live performance. I sat down with my back to the audience behind the amp. This was back in college somewhere. Even though my heart was saying, I want to perform. Now I love it. I'm very used to going on stage. It's normal for me because I've done many gigs and got used to it. But even then, the process of being on stage, performing music in real time in front of people, is always a daunting one. We have all these doubts and questions in our mind. We doubt ourselves. We can be worried about what other people think, what happens if something goes wrong, all these kind of variables which may or may not happen. And most of the time, we're actually better off than we think we are. If you are finding yourself nervous when you perform in front of people, there's several factors here. First of all, preparation. Making sure that you're really well familiarized with the music that you're going to be playing. Make sure you practice playing standing up with the strap. Practice with the guitar and the amplifier that you're going to use. If you're in a band, book a studio and do some rehearsals before the gig. Know the songs inside out. This is why, just learning something from tab, or just kind of knowing things in terms of where they are, in terms of like that's that fret, in kind of single motions, is okay for learning, but really we have to understand the structure of the music that we're playing. What is the chorus? What is the verse? What happens if I miss the verse? How well do I know the songs? That if a mistake does happen, like I forget where to go, or something happens, I'm familiar with where I am on the fretboard and I've got some ways of getting out of it. That's all part of the prep. Also, how you practice is really important. What you practice is how you will come out. And, practice makes perfect is the saying. However, if you're practicing mistakes, then you're practicing mistakes. So fully attentive practice is really important in preparing for gigs. Performing or even talking in any kind of public setting can make anybody nervous at the best of times. You're kind of wearing your heart on your sleeve. That's the saying. You're sharing something that's quite vulnerable, especially if you really love what you're doing, if you're really passionate about it, and it's something that you've been doing privately or kind of behind closed doors, and then you want to perform in front of people. It's a bit like answering the front door in your dressing gown and it's, I don't know, somebody important that you're expecting to see. It's a bit of a shock. So we have to have a good relationship with ourselves and not be so critical and judgmental, because how we see the world, how we think the world sees us is actually how we see the world, mostly. So if you're very critical of yourself, probably we're critical of others, and we can't get by that. I'm critical sometimes, it's kind of what happens, being part of being human. But understanding that, meeting that where it is, and putting it aside. The audience want to see you have a good time. If you're having a good time, the audience has a good time. You don't have to do anything extra special apart from prepare and relax and enjoy it. Because when you enjoy it, it communicates your passion. And whether or not it's technically perfect, that stuff can go out the window. We have to remember that live music is live. It's not Instagram. It's not a video like this where I get to do a lick, and then if I don't like it, I can cut it out and then do another lick. It's not like that. So live, it all happens in the moment, and as soon as people hear it, it's gone. So remembering that and just being kind to yourself is an important thing to remember. For me, it's also been very helpful to realise that the more nervous and neurotic I get about things, trying to be perfect all the time and going into the gig with ideas of how everything should be, you're shoulding on yourself, it should be this way, it should be that. Whilst it's useful in terms of prep and making sure you're not kind of without an anchor when you get on stage, it can really ruin the fluidity of the moment of performing. And it can cause you to go kind of inside in a bad way, in a way where you cut off everything else in such a way that you don't notice the audience, you don't notice your band or the songs, and therefore you're less receptive and flexible with the situation, which then turns you into you kind of shut off from the whole process, which is it's a shame, really. And I think that's where mistakes can happen, because if you end up in that kind of hole, you can miss a chorus, miss a bar, miss a chord. Those bad mistakes happen, and because you're not prepared, because you're not kind of with it, it shocks us out, and then we start kind of ruminating during the gig on stage. I've done it where I've played solos live back in the past, and I might have missed a run or something, or maybe something's gone wrong, but I spend the next 2 minutes of the song just thinking about my practice, how I've got to get a new this or that, starting to externalise all of these problems, when really, the song's still going on. So I think it's helpful to have little tools in order to bring you back into the performance itself. If you find yourself ruminating on stage, kind of creating a mental proliferation of like, oh, rubbish, this sucks, I feel you want to shut down and run away, get away from the thoughts. Come back to the sounds. Come back to your feet on the floor. You deserve to be there. If you have the gig, if you have the performance, you're allowed to be there. If you feel stomach and you've got some butterflies going on, you feel tense in your jaw, or your breathing's very shallow, or you can't feel your legs, all these kind of like somatic bodily sensations that can happen when we're nervous cause us to shut down. But by simply noticing them, kind of like, let's say you had a pet, like you had a dog or something, and the dog is really excited and it runs and bangs its head on something and it kind of whimpers. You look after the dog, you assure it, or a child, or something like that. And it's the same with your body. You kind of come back to, you're nervous, it's okay, remember, it's kind of just being all right to yourself, being kind. We're often quite harsh. There's a lot of harshness in the world about, be better, be more, all this stuff. But really, this is music. This is about relaxing and performing and enjoying ourselves. And in reality, in the grand scheme of things, it's not heart surgery. And we should be there to just enjoy it. There's no mistakes that can really happen. In terms of things which are bad, we sort of imagine everything going wrong. We somehow imagine if we get a solo wrong, our underpants will fall off, and then we'll start crying, and then I don't know, something. We imagine all these kind of unrealistic scenarios, which are nothing to do with actually what's happening. So remembering to come back to the body, listening. If you're with a band, listening to the hi-hats, listening to the singer, listening to the sound of your guitar, as if you're not the one playing it as you're playing. That sounds very odd, but you get in touch with the quality of the sounds rather than I'm doing this to be this way and have this and show these people I can perform. Whilst that's not bad for motivation and getting through some hurdles, it can become quite self-destructive, and you don't want to self-destruct on stage, because really it'll just make you have a bad relationship with performing. So be kind to yourself, take things slow, do the prep, connect with what's actually happening in the moment without judging or analysing or making a story about it, and enjoy it. You get to perform music. It's the whole reason why we play music. It's communication, it's language, it's entertainment, it's an expression of something far bigger than we can understand. It's part of what we feel a need to do. So don't let your thoughts and worries about your self-image get in the way of that. And I shall continue doing the same as well. All right, good luck. Hope to see you performing soon, and take care of yourself.